Welcome back to another episode with the Conversation with God and Self. I'm your host, CWGNS. For those of you that may not know, this podcast is for new believers in Christ, as well as those that are on their personal development journey. This podcast is here to show you that you don't have to go through the sufferings alone of what life has given you. And I'm here to just encourage you to start the conversation. What's coming up today is we are going to be going back into the acceptance realm, but we're going to be covering another part of it. What we're going to be covering is why do I sabotage everything that I touch? What has played a part in my now that has allowed me to be stuck in a cycle of constant self sabotage? If you are a person on the other side of this that's wondering why every time things get good, you intentionally make them bad, this episode is for you. So don't go away because we're going to start the conversation. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, people. There has been things about me that has changed since the last episode, and I think I should point them out too. I have a halter top on. I don't do these, but I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to show up as myself. So I was like, you know what, girl, get you a little sweatsuit. That's what I got on. If people don't know, it's a little lace. I actually got this from Walmart though. It's really cute and it's very comfortable. And it's blue and has like white stripes for those of you who's listening in. Also, y'all got me a little tattoo. Okay, from now on, that's how you call tattoos. You call them tattoo. Okay, because I got me tatted up. Okay, so for those of you listening, my tattoo is a sunflower because I love me sunflowers. That is the only flower that I actually like because they come only in seasons and they're not accessible. So you gotta be a little. Plus, I love sunflower seeds. That is my favorite. That's my go-to snack, like my ultimate go-to snack. Like you will always find your girl with a bag of seeds. Ranch is my favorite. If you know, you know. But um, so it is a sunflower for those of you that can see if you are watching on YouTube, and the quote that is engraved in it. So it's like a sunflower, and then it's like a quote that's supposed to be the stem is actually a quote, and then I have like two leaves because they're droopy, and then it ends with a stem, and it has my sister's initials because my sister was the one who kind of gave me this quote. So it says, "Trust him when you can't trace him." And when she told me that, I think it was a shift because of the simple fact of there has been plenty of times in my life where I couldn't trace what God was doing, but I had to learn how to trust him. And I feel like probably in your life there were times where you was wondering like what are you doing in this moment in my life, like what exactly are you doing, and you couldn't trace what he was doing, but you knew he was doing something, but you just couldn't come to terms exactly what it was he was doing. And just because you can't see what the Lord is doing doesn't mean that he's not doing the work that he said he was going to do. So even in the moments where you can't see his work, still trust him. And I think every time I look at this on my arm, it definitely will be a reminder to me to just trust God in all things. So I will be continuing once this heals. I'm hoping by my birthday I am able to start like finishing up my sleeve. If you don't know, my top of my shoulder, well, at the top of my arm, a little close to my shoulder, is my grandmama, my little buki. So I got hers tatted like around 2021, and then I'm basically slowly starting my sleeve. So enough about me. Let's get into the topic. So the topic today, and guys, I got notes, okay, because your girl came prepared. Okay, I've been working on this little episode, Yodi. I've been working on this episode for like quite some time. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And I think what it was is because remember what I said that we was gonna go through certain pillars and we was gonna hit the past, the present, the future, and then move on to the next. And what I felt the Lord was saying to me is like, no, this is a little deeper. Like this is gonna require a little bit more because there's so much to do with acceptance. It's not just the black and white version of it, which is what we try to go through. Like, okay, I can accept it, but what we don't understand is we do a lot of out of sight, out of mind acceptance. Let me put you on. So my version of acceptance is not more so like it being in front of me. My version of acceptance is like out of sight, out of mind. Like what I mean out of sight, out of mind is not in front of me, so it's not really affecting me, so I can accept it at a distance. Does that make sense? It's like right now I'm in a season of learning to forgive, but what my therapist told me was I'm learning to forget it rather than forgive. I don't know who told her to be all about my business. I did because I paid her, but still. So I think for me personally is literally like not only learning the true meaning of acceptance, but also helping others also identify what real acceptance is. And a lot of us, we will accept things as long as we can avoid it. We will accept things as long as it's not in our face, right? We can accept things and what people have done to us as long as it does not affect us in our now and in our reality, right? So topic's gonna be accepting who you were, right? Who you are, right? And how it will play in and who you and how it plays in who you are becoming. So y'all know before we get deep into this conversation, we gotta invite the matchless, wonderful creator, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, my God, y'all God, the Holy Spirit did it. So if you are available to do so, please bow your heads. Father God, I thank you. Thank you so much for this message that we are about to share to those that are listening to it. Father God, we ask that you guide this conversation in a direction that you need it to go for our ears, but also for our minds. Provide us with wisdom in this conversation that we can be able to apply right here and right now. Father God, we thank you for the clarity and understanding that you will provide us throughout this conversation and allow us to continue it even when this one is over. Father God, we trust you and we love you. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. All right, guys. So you know what that means. Let's start the conversation. Like I said, when it comes to acceptance for me, especially me being an avoider, I am like, when it comes to avoidance, I am the queen of avoidance. I will avoid something as much as I can because I learned I don't really like confrontation. And not to say like I don't like confrontation, like I choose to back away from it, but I don't like confrontation because I have yet come to a place in my life where I'm taught how to handle confrontation, and I'm learning, right? But my form of confronting confrontation is like still street. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't think I trust myself to know when to stop, if that makes sense. Like I'm still my form of confrontation is still immature. Be very honest with myself. It's very immature. So when I feel like I will get into a confrontation, I'm taking it to the ends of the earth. I'm taking it to the point where I'm gonna have to repent for my sins later, if you know what I mean. You get it? Okay. So for me not to have to go there, I just avoid it altogether. Like don't want no parts of it. Keep it to yourself. I'm gonna go that way, you go that way. I wanted to really get into is we covered past, right, of acceptance and understanding like the things that happen in our past and how you view them and perception wise, right? And then we also covered the presence and how the past affected the presence, but the things that you need to accept within your presence, right? Like understanding like the reality that we live is not something that we're always joyful for, we always happy for, we always show gratitude, but to learn to show gratitude because the journey is what's important, right? And if you haven't seen that episode, definitely go back and check it out. But I'm touching on, okay, these are ways we can accept. Like we can accept the things we can't change, which would be our past. And then when it comes to our reality, even though we do have the ability to change it, even in that moment, we do have the ability to change our present towards our future, but even where we currently are, we need to accept it and be appreciative because that's just the beauty of it all, right? But then something hit me as I was like throughout the week, between talking to like my sister and like a couple of friends and stuff like that, and I noticed I'm like, can I accept what my past created in me that connected to another avatar? So I'm gonna actually reference to my notes because as I was writing this down, it made me really think like big picture. So I want to share that with y'all. It's okay if I share that with y'all? I'm gonna share that with y'all. All right. So one of the points I made is accepting the different avatars created out of self-sabotage and how you operate in it for protection. So always gonna speak on me, right? Because why will I not? What I realized the way self-sabotage showed up and how I was it was intentional for protection, but I didn't but the way that I operated in it for the protection also hindered my growth. Does that make sense? We have to understand that when we connect the roots, right? Because connecting the roots is always having to go forward. I mean, connecting the roots is always for us to move backwards so we can move forward, right? So when it comes to connecting those roots, we have to understand that there were things that was created within our system that was created out of a form of protection based on our experiences. If it's environmental, cultural, personal, right? And I've said this in previous podcasts, how we deal with certain things is made up of other people way of dealing with things, right? So if there's other people's perception, how they handle situations, is kind of something we adapted while growing up, right? If you've been listening lately, you have identified that there are parts of you that have operated in self-sabotage. And there are parts of you that are upset that you have operated in self-sabotage. But what you need to accept is the parts that was created out of self-sabotage was also created out of form of protection. If it was a traumatic experience, if it was fear, if it was avoiding, right? Avoiding not wanting to accept what was, right? The outcome of something. We have to accept the fact that a lot of the decisions we made, right, was a part of a system that was created out of form of protection based on what we took in and how we perceive that experience. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So in that, you created different avatars. And what I mean by different avatars is what I'm learning right now from therapy, from my own personal growth, from even reading my Bible. What I'm currently learning right now is I have different parts of me that operate based on a situation. Let me explain. When I am triggered, and what I also realize is triggers are not reality, guys. It's just something that is like snapping you. It's like a snapshot, like of something that looks familiar and it reminds you of something that you wasn't okay with, right? So, and I'm literally going to get into accepting what made me do it, how I showed up, all the things. But when it comes to the avatars, I want to break that down a little bit more so you guys can understand and or be aware of when you are operating in this specific avatar. So like I said, based on the experience, certain parts of you react based on the situation that is at hand, right? So I have three avatars. My three avatars are the little girl in me, the teenager, and the grown adult, right? And depending on what situation I am dealing with, like when the little girl starts to show up in me is when I'm very overwhelmed, right? Or when I get really upset about something that's not going my way, that's when that avatar pops up. Now, I'm not saying I have 13 different personalities. We're not diagnosing ourselves. I am not a medical professional, neither are you. So please do not go on Google and be like, I have a personality disorder and I have 13 people living in my head. Absolutely not. We're not doing that. But what we are doing is we're going to recognize how we react in certain situations and what's really triggering that avatar to show up. And I'll use me as an example, right? So, like I said, when things are not going my way the way that I want it to go, when someone tells me something in a certain way, like I use my husband as a perfect example. My husband has a very loud voice. He speaks very loud. The little girl in me does not like loudness. She's very intimidated by that. So anytime he talks to me, and he could be talking regular, but to me, if it's in like not a fly on my nose, really, but to me, when it's like at a certain pitch point, the little girl in me comes out and gets very defensive because she doesn't like that. Like when I was younger, I never liked yelling. I would see like my parents arguing and stuff and yelling at each other. It just never sat well with me. So when, like I said, he gets to a pitch. I'm sorry, there's a fly and it's buggy. I don't like little gnats. And if I could get it, I'm gonna get it. But yeah, I don't like certain pitches, like certain. So like me, again, out of protection, she will come out like and she would come out on defense mode because of, again, based on the experience that I had, the form of protection that I've created out of that experience is what will show up anytime that is triggered. All right, follow me. Now the second avatar I have is the teenager, right? And the teenager, of course, we remember our teenage years. We went through a lot of things with, a lot of different experiences. And she observed, like, she's very observant, and she's a type that if she feels something's funny, she's in defense. Like, she can, like, if she feels like something's funny, 2 and 2 not adding up to 4, she gets automatically in defense. Wall goes up, she shuts down. Right? But again, it's something that's triggering that avatar to pop up. And the adult me is very calm, like, very understanding. She's very, very honest. Um, and when she pops up, kinda is just like when the, like, because the other two, as much as they do have a protective stance, they're also like, they have fear about, like, showing up as themselves still, again, because remember, we're operating in that type of persona based on the trigger that is present, is the whatever avatar is going to come and show up for the protection, right? So when it comes to accepting who you were, you have to understand that based on your experiences, who you were was created out of the coping mechanisms that you was given, right? So you have to understand that a lot of the things that you have done in your past was a default system that was created out of protection of you. And I'll use me as an example. There was a time, like I said, abandonment issues in my last episode, and I talked about how it affected me in ways where, again, I could sit in a room and I could analyze people who can be around, like, basically who was good enough to stay, who was good enough to go. That was still a biased perception, right? Because again, this perception was created from a traumatic experience of being abandoned by both parents at a very young age. So even when I think or thought at the time that my decision making was clean cut clear, it was not. It was still biased because I'm still operating out of unprocessed um unprocessed, I would say, like, emotions, unprocessed trauma. You know what I mean? So there were times, like I've stated before, that I would cut people off because, again, if they did something that was, like, a little sketchy, the teenager in me at the time, who probably was a teenager, would just cut them off, right? But they're not intentionally doing something sketchy to me, right? They're moving and operating. They don't know that they're triggering me. They're just doing what they do. But me having that trigger, and the thing about it is what I'm learning too, and I'm accepting that a trigger is not a reality. A trigger is a snapshot of the past. And based on if you heal that trigger, if you addressed it, if you connected the roots, is based on how you will respond to said trigger, right? There are times where people, they get triggered, and it's only because that trigger is still present, like, it's still live, as if it's still happening. You have not got healed from it. You didn't forgive. You didn't accept what happened. So it doesn't cause a chain. It causes a chain reaction. It's like a gun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you load it up. But if and I think I'm getting away from the metaphor. But if you are not, I would say, unloading the gun, right? Removing the bullets, and you keep loading up the bullets by not trying to heal, not trying to forgive, not trying to accept what was. Every single time this situation comes up that you have not accepted, it feels like a form of reality when it's just a snapshot of the past, right? So I want to go into, like, there were like I said, like, accepting what it made me do and how I showed up. There were times where, when I was triggered because I didn't accept what was, right, that these avatars will take the wheel. Like, seriously, they will take the wheel based on whatever situation was present at the time. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't choose what avatar came to the forefront. Whatever one felt strong enough to handle whatever situation was present, it was the one that came to the forefront. And remember, if the situation's not healed, if it's not accepted, if you're, even sometimes you'll be unaware. Like, I remember one time I was like so angry, y'all. I was like, why are you so angry? And I remember, and I think I spoke about this too before. I remember I just kept I couldn't put my finger on why I was angry. And I wasn't angry on what was in front of me. I wasn't angry on the situation at hand that was present. I was angry at something cuz it was like a type of anger that was like it wasn't, that anger you get where you was like, whoo, y'all. You know that anger you get when you have, like, let's say you ate at a nice restaurant, you got the leftovers, you already know how you about to heat this food up so it can taste as if it's straight out the restaurant. You was mouth watering all day for this particular meal. You knew exactly what you was gonna do after you done heated it up. You planned it step by step on the fact that you was gonna go home, you were gonna probably take a little shower, get dressed, get a little cozy, put on this show at this time, heat it up at this time so it's at the right temperature, and then you get home and somebody ate the food. Now that's a different type of mad. I'm talking about madder than that. Okay? And I couldn't put my finger on it. And the thing about it is sometimes that you will be triggered by something and you're unaware as to why you were triggered. Like, you don't even know, like, what's the real reason why you're mad. You just know that you're furious. And this was the type of anger I had in me, and I couldn't really understand, like, why was I so upset. Remember sitting in my office and I was like, Lord, if you can just please, like, reveal to me, why am I so upset? And he took me to an area in my life that I forgot. Like, I couldn't, like, but I mean that I suppressed it so much I forgot about it. And he brought it to the surface. And like I said, depending on whatever was the trigger, it was who thought they were strong enough to show up, right? So I think what it is the question comes down to, what avatar are you operating out of based on the triggers that come across you, right? Because the next thing I wanted to pinpoint is accepting what it made you do. There were times where I'm lashing out, and I intentionally don't mean to lash out, but again, whoever decided to show up to the wheel, to the ship, like, whoever decided to be the captain of the day was the one that was showing out, right? And you have to understand, those other two avatars, my younger self and my teenage self, does not have they do not have the maturity, the intelligence, um, the wisdom that my adult self has. So when it comes to reacting, they're reacting in the era that they was created, right? So my teenager's reacting as a teenager. My younger self is reacting as the little girl, right? My adult version comes out when I'm in that I've accepted what it is and I can address this as an adult in my maturity. So, like, depending on what it was, y'all, your girl, I don't know how people dealt with me. I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, the teenager was hard headed, don't listen to nobody, think her shark don't shark. You know what I mean? And the little girl was just rebellious, and she also didn't listen, very hard-headed, and both of them is very headstrong. And don't get me wrong, the adult's very headstrong too, but she's headstrong in a wiser way. Like, she knows that she can be strong, but she doesn't always need to be strong, right? These two other avatars, they had to be strong because, like I said, from the moment that I can remember, as long as I was able to fend for myself, I was fending for myself, I was raising myself, right? So I think this is going to put in context as to, can you accept how you're showing up? Can you accept the things that you've done to other, like, can you accept your part also in your journey? Because again, we could look at the past, right? And we can victimize the past, right? Because at the end of the day, we was young, things that we claim shouldn't have, like, things that we feel shouldn't have happened, right? And we can play the victim because of us being young and not knowing, right? But then we get into our teenage years and we can also play the victim there because we're young, we don't know a lot, right? There's still things that shouldn't have happened to us. But then when we get into adult, when do we take accountability and we accept the parts that we played? Now that we are aware of those things about ourselves. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow, because when you get to accepting the part you played, you also start to understand that yes, there were villains in your story, but you also was a villain in someone else's too. And it's okay. And I say that because I talked to an old friend of mine, right? And conversing with this old friend of mine, I was so wrapped up in my own stuff that I didn't know that I did play a part, right? And I could have made all the excuses. I was going through this and this is that. And I was like, it's crazy because when you're going through your own stuff and you're trying to heal yourself and you're trying to accept the things and don't get me wrong, like acceptance is not easy because awareness is not easy. Like even being aware of the things that you try to suppress, even being aware of the things that you don't want to really acknowledge because it hurts to acknowledge, like when you start to become aware of that, it lays heavy on your heart because now it's like reliving it all over again. And it's not beautiful. It's not beautiful at all. It actually sucks, right? But now you gotta accept that that's what it was. Like, I'm aware of it, and being aware of it is being aware of it. It's just knowing. But accepting it is digesting it. It's like, yo, like, I did that, or that happened to me. And I gotta accept it because if I don't, how long am I going to stay bitter? How long am I going to go against what the Bible says in um, Ephesians 4:26? Yep, Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and do not sin. So if I'm aware, awareness is going to make you angry, right? Because the fact that you're aware of it, it'll piss anybody off, right? But when you're aware of it and you refuse to accept it in your heart, it causes you to sin because you're refusing to just accept it for what it is and to take the what you can out of it that was positive and move on, right? So it goes on to accepting how it played and plays out in who I am now. Awareness does not stop it. It just makes you aware. Accepting goes into your heart, which means for change, right? So again, like I stated, like acceptance is where it hits the heart. And then that's where that transformation comes in. So like what is something that you're avoiding to accept because it hurts so much? And I'm not saying like this is supposed to be an overnight thing. Like, oh, okay, I'm aware of something. Okay, I accept that it happened. No. Because it's hard. Because there's a lot of things that hold you back from truly accepting. And I think for me, I'm not gonna lie, pride made me not want to accept it. Um, Revenge, like feeling a sense of entitlement that I needed to have revenge on the people that thought it was okay to do what they did, right? But then when I look into my Bible and the Lord goes, vengeance is mine, meaning that's not your responsibility to think you have to give back to the people. That's not your fight. That's my fight. That fight belongs to me and me only, right? Yeah. And I remember when I read that passage, I was like, wow, Lord, that's not my fight. And I think that's what the Lord was saying. That fight belongs to me and me only. That fight doesn't belong to you. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So I think what it is when we are aware of stuff, bitterness and malice does show up in our hearts because it's hard to accept that happened. And then sometimes it be hard to accept that what happened, but who did it? Like, I didn't expect that. Man. I expected a lot of things, but that betrayal, that unloyalty, I didn't expect that. Like, so granted, awareness hard is hard, but sometimes it be hard to accept it from the people it came from. Like, word, you move like that. So I think with when it comes to acceptance and accepting like who you are and like where you are and like who you want to become, it all those steps comes with acceptance. Like it comes down to accepting who you was, right? Like, and you also have to accept what played in who you was, right? Like what traumatic experience played that you did not process, right? um what learning coping mechanisms, right? Things that you learn on how to handle certain situations, right? Environmental influence, right? Adapting other mindsets, right? Like I said, there were times I've adapted my grandmama mindset. I never touched an airplane, but was scared as HE double hockey sticks to get on the airplane until I got on the airplane and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? So we have to factor in all of this and understand who created that child avatar, right? And then we have to look at who created the teenage avatar, right? And then, right, we have to accept the things that played in it. Is this We have to accept the reality of what happened in those areas of our life. But then we also have to accept that, one, when certain triggers happen, we are operating in those avatars. And how can we stop operating out of the fear of those avatars? Because again, your system created those avatars as a form of protection for you. And a lot of us, I'm pointing the finger at me too, are still operating in those avatars when certain triggers are populating, right? Or certain triggers are popping up. That avatar takes the wheel because that avatar feels like it still needs to protect you. The little girl still feels like she still needs to protect you. The teenager still feels like she needs to protect you. And all in a while, you're building the adult in you, because you're refusing to accept the things of the past, right? And some of you is still accepting the things in your presence because you know how you handled a certain situation might have been wrong, right? What you said might have been a little too much, right? So instead of you accepting and being like, you know what, that was my bad, you justify it because you're still operating in those avatars, which justify it, right? Because those avatars are tainted, right, with a bias perception because they still are living lively in unprocessed trauma and unprocessed low self-esteem, right? Unprocessed, like they're still operating in these things that ultimately result in self-sabotage, right? So, but I wanted to touch on also, because now that we are aware of those things, like right now that we're recognizing our pain points, we're recognizing the cycle, right? Like the never ending cycle of constantly self-sabotage. I remember saying, like, how do I mess up everything? It's because you're still operating in the fear, you're still operating in the low self-esteem, you're still operating in these things, right? So moving forward, now that you acknowledge that you're self-sabotage, we need to know when these people or when these avatars are showing up when we're triggered. That's how you can recognize your self-sabotage, and that's how right in the moment you can kill it, right? So like me, when I get triggered by, like, I will always go, because like again, if you know my husband's voice is like the loud, to me is like the loudest thing in the world. Um, I don't think no one's louder than him. I think this man could probably stand on Mount Rushmore and the world can hear him just by him speaking normally. Sorry, honey, in advance, but his voice is very loud. But to me, there was an incident where he was just talking. I swear, this man is just talking. And I start getting an attitude because I'm like, bro, why are you yelling? And he's like, I'm not yelling. I'm literally just talking. And I start catching an attitude. I swear for y'all. I swear for y'all. Listen, I start catching an attitude. And the reason why is because, again, his pitch was triggering me. And instead of me going, again, acknowledging, right, what was like acknowledging that my younger self was becoming offended and understanding, like, and communicating that. So again, in order for you to stop yourself sabotage is understanding who is about to operate. Like when you're being triggered, there's a trigger is not just something like, and I hate when people do that, like, oh, it's triggered. A trigger is not just something that happened that you didn't like. No, a trigger is connecting to something that was an experience that you had. Thank you, Father God. That again is giving you a snapshot of that moment, which is why it's a trigger. Okay. But to me, prior to my sit down with my therapist, it was a reality. Like I was operating out of that little girl's offense. Like, why are you yelling at me? And it was like, I'm not yelling at you, right? But again, when you're triggered, it feels like the reality. It feels like the snapshot that is goes in your head is present. Like I said, so I was mad at this. I started getting mad, and he's like, "What are you getting upset for?" And it made him not want to talk no more. He was like, "Okay, whatever. I don't care. I don't want to talk." And he walked away from me. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like offended, right? But I'm not genuinely offended. I'm just offended. The little girl in me is offended, and she's the one that's operating. So of course she's the one that has the attitude because she's thinking that he's yelling when he's not yelling. That's just how the man talks. Has a very high pitched voice. Go upstairs. And right then and then I said, oh snap, LaVasia, that was a little girl in you. That wasn't you. Like, you wasn't offended of that, because the adult version of you has an understanding, this is my husband's voice, but the little girl still operates in offense of that high pitch. So I remember I had to text him and go, I apologize. And acceptance, y'all, is knowing when you're wrong, is knowing that in this development, if it's spiritual development and personal development, you're going to have to take a lot of L's in the beginning, because you are learning to operate out of your default system, and you're learning to be uncomfortable and learning to get comfortable with uncomfortable. Does that make sense? So now you are the one G checking yourself. You are the one holding you accountable. You are the one noticing that, oh man, I messed up, and you are gonna be the one that's gonna have to fix it. And you know what? It's hard because I'm stubborn. I'm learning. The Lord is still working on me to not be stubborn. But for those of you that are very stubborn, it's going to be hard because you are the one that's going to have to approach first. And that was me. Like, I literally had to text my husband, like, hey, I do apologize. That was not you. You did nothing wrong. That was me. And that was like me. I was triggered by the way of your voice. But again, that had nothing to do with you. It was really me. And we talked through that. But had I not corrected myself, noticed who was operating, had I continued in that, why you acting like that, it would have caused more friction, right? And it would have continued to trickle down. And that would have not been good. Point blank, period. It would have not been good. Because then I would have sat in my own self righteousness and not known that I was actually wrong, right? So I say all of that to say acceptance, guys. We're even gonna go more deep into acceptance, because it's more than, like I said, it's more than being the, oh, out of sight, out of mind acceptance. It's really digesting your part and how you're playing and how you're showing up, right? Next point I wanted to make, understand that the lies you told yourself and understanding that they are lies, right? Like, I could have lied to myself and justified myself for getting upset with my husband, because my husband knows my triggers, right? He knows, like, granted, he knows he speaks loud, but he also knows, like, I have a certain, like, level. I don't know why, but I have a certain level of, like, high pitchedness, if that makes sense. And he knows this. He knows this. And again, it's not intentional on his part, but he knows this, right? And I could have lied to myself and be like, well, you know this, so I have every right to be, I have an attitude, but that's lying to myself, right? Because we have to understand that everyone's actions are not intentionally out to get us. And when you're in a protective stance, right? Because again, remember, these avatars was created out of protecting you, right? It's a form of protection, putting up your defense, right? Like snapping back. Like my form of protection is a snapback. Like my mouth. We'll talk about that in another episode. Long story short, I grew up in an era where we joked on people, right? And you better come back with a good old comeback, okay? Or you lose that little word game. And trust me, over time, I got a little good at it. So but the Bible also speaks about how your tongue is life or death, right? I'd rather choose my tongue to be life and not death. But there was a times where my mouth was death, okay? Straight up death, D-I-E, okay? But I say that to say, a lot of us, right, when we are operating in these avatars, it creates lies that justifies our actions. Like, we tell ourselves that that action that we bestowed upon another person was justified because we was offended by what they did, right? They shouldn't. We do not take accountability on how we react. And in the Bible, it speaks on, like, loving your brothers and sisters. If you and your brothers and sisters fall out, leave the temple, go make up with your brothers and sisters and come back. Like, the Lord is, like, the Bible speaks about community and connectedness and forgiving, right? Like, forgiveness and understanding and knowing you need other people. And I feel like we're in an era of this world where people think it's okay to just be by themselves. Like, we're operating in so much hyper independence. We don't understand how that's hurting and hindering us from true growth, right? Because what I'm learning even within myself on being a Christian life coach is, for me to really know that I change, I need a community to verify it. It can't just be me. I can't show up and go, I changed. I did all the work. I read all the books. I did the conferences and the podcasts and the courses. I did all the things. So I changed because I know more, right? So a lot of the times where we know more, we think we change because we are aware of more, right? But just because you have knowledge does not mean you walk with wisdom. I'm gonna say that again. Just because you have knowledge does not mean you walk in wisdom. Because you could be aware of so many things. You can have so much knowledge of so many things. Does not mean that that's something you live by. And how you know you live by stuff is community, people. Because they can testify, yep, it was a time that that person could have operated in the way they could have operated, but they did something different. As opposed to you, when you have your own mind, again, you can lie to yourself, be like, I handled that the right way because I could have handled it worse, but you still handled it worse. You didn't handle it right. You probably didn't handle it as worse as you did before, but you still ain't handle it in the best of your ability. So, yeah. And I do want to point this out because I know there's a lot of people that is trying to understand their identity, try to understand the root of their identity, try to understand the parts of their identity, or kind of where it was built and all the things. And what I'm here to say to you is, what was created out of protection doesn't define you, right? What was created from my younger version of myself to my teenage version of myself, the things that happened to me, how I created those avatars does not define the person I am. Of course, I had bad seasons. Of course, there are some people that met me at my worst, and there are some people that met me at my best. There are people that have different versions of me in their memory, right? And they're all not good. Of course, I would love everyone to have had a solid memory of me. Of course. Who don't? Like, who don't want people every time they talk about you with something good? But there are people that when they speak about me, it's not good because their experience was not the best of me. But it doesn't define me because they met me at a time in my life where I wasn't my best self, right? That doesn't make, like, that's not the definition of me, because I'm learning and I'm growing, right? And I would love for those same people who didn't meet me at my best to meet me now, because maybe I could change their mind. But even if I don't, I do not have to hold that baggage on my shoulders of the experience they had of me. I can accept who I was. I can accept why I was the way I was, right? And I can accept that I showed up not the best version of myself. And I can accept at the end of the day that does not define me. I take accountability for it, right? Because if I was aware of it, I could have done something, right? Because acceptance changes your heart posture. It literally starts the movement of change, right? That's like you trying to move a wheel, right? And you're aware that you need to move this wheel, but there's something blocking it. And what's blocking it is lack of acceptance. And until you accept is when the wheel gets to move. But when the moment you are not accepting it, the wheel is stuck. It's like, again, I'm aware that I need to move this wheel. I'm aware. I gotta move it. I gotta move it. I gotta move it. But I'm not accepting. And that's what holds a lot of us back, the fear of acceptance. Because a lot of us feel like when we accept, we're saying okay to all the things, right? The people that did us wrong, we're letting them off the hook, and the things that happen, it's not as important, right? Like, but no, it's still important. You're just not allowing it to hinder you. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But like I said, acceptance is a heart move, not a mind move. If you try to accept in your mind, you're just gonna be convincing yourself all the time. I know. When I was trying to accept mind wise and not heart wise, I was really trying to convince myself on a day to day that I've accepted it when I really didn't. And you know how I know I didn't accept it? My mannerism, how I showed up, how I reacted. You know what I mean? Like, what I did showed me I did not accept. You know what I mean? And yeah, like transformation really starts in a heart of acceptance, and that's really what it is. Like just like when they when they go, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. You have to accept. Like you could be aware of the Lord, you could be aware of Him, but for you to get the true transformation of God and Him, and understanding who He is and understanding His presence in your life is accepting Him for who He is. Right? Same thing. So I looked up, and I was like, what? Who are the people that self-sabotage in the Bible? And they brought up a lot of things. So it was on my heart because I thought that when it came to this particular topic of accepting who you were, right? Who you are and who you're becoming, the prodigal son and Luke 15 verse 11 through 32 was the perfect, I believe, um story to kind of to bring this all in, right? So like I said, I'm gonna say it again. Luke 15, we're on verse 11 through 32. I am not reading all of this, guys. I'm not gonna read it, but I will give you a brief context. And then again, I'm going to encourage you to please go and open your Bible today and just read that story and seek God in that story, but also see if you can see yourself. Because when I read this story a couple times, and I never really understood it. I think my main focus was, why was the brother mad? Like, you know? But then when I read it a couple days ago, I saw me and I was like, wow, Lord. Like, wow. Oh, I also gotta tell you a little something I did. I'll tell you at the end of this, if you're at the end of the podcast, y'all. I did something that was so big, y'all. Y'all gonna be proud of your girl. Y'all gonna be proud of your girl. But I'm gonna tell you at the end. I'm gonna tell you at the end. Let me get to start. So when it comes to the prodigal son, long story short, it's about a young man who, of course, was born into a inheritance, right? And he basically asked his father to access his inheritance early. Usually in this culture, that is actually very disrespectful because, bro, this is what I did. You basically trying to rush my death to get what you're gonna get. But the father gave the child his inheritance, and the child departed. Child went off into a distant land, right? And squandered his money on all things. Goes off, whatever, into a distant land, spends all his money on ungodly things. Let's just put it out there like that. Then a famine hits that area to where now not only is he broke, but they broke out there too. So he ends up, mind you, he's a Jew. So he ends up working, not even really working because he wasn't getting no money. Nobody was feeding him or nothing. But he ends up working with pigs slop. Um, and then from there he realizes, like, dang, I messed up. I messed up with the Lord. I messed up with my father. Let me go back and acknowledge that, hey, like, because my father's servants, they eating right now, like they living better than me. So let me go back and acknowledge my sins and stuff, and actually live in how I feel, and even tell my father, like, yo, don't even bring me back to where I was. Just let me serve you, like, just so I can eat. So he already forgot his place of who he was. um Going more into it, he returns. On him returning, the father sees him, starts celebrating, embraces his child, ends up throwing an entire party. Brothers coming from the field from working, he like, what the heck going on over here? Y'all over here partying while I'm out there working. Notices what the party was for his brother's return, gets really upset. Like, how y'all gonna celebrate him? And I've been in the trenches with you. Like, I never left. And then the father's like, well, you never left. So don't you understand, everything that is mine will be yours? And basically he returned, like he was dead, now he's alive. So this also goes off of the continuance of the lost sheep. If you know the story, it's basically how a farmer lost one sheep, he will leave the 99 for that one and rejoice when he finds it. So all of that to say, right? So when it comes to the self-sabotage and how that played in it, so he self-sabotaged what he had because he knew. You know a lot about people based on what they spend their money on. How many of you would already access wealth if you knew it exists? And I ain't talking about your little paycheck that you get weekly, weekly, or bi-weekly. I'm talking about if you knew there was wealth laid up and stored for you, right? That you can access it if you ask. I bet a lot of y'all said right now, I will access that joint right now, right? Thing about it is a lot of us will rather access something prematurely than to wait on it and know how to manage it. then what lies really deep in your heart, you would you know a lot about a person, what they spend their money on. You know where their priorities lies. In the Bible, it speaks about your heart is where your treasure lies, right? You know people's intentions and you know a lot about a person based on what they spend, point blank period, right? But you also know a lot about how they feel about themselves too. And it's crazy because as I was reading this, it put in context with he spent a lot of his stuff on ungodly things, right? The brother was like he spent it on prostitutes and all things. And when what came to my mind was, wow, like how unworthy did this man feel that he thought the need to go out and buy things that was beneath him, right? He went and spent his money on like, you know what I mean? So notice how despite messing up the moment the father spotted his return, he came and rejoiced, right? Like the father could have been mad at him, right? The father could have rejected him, right? The father could have been on some, I gave you what was owed to you. What are you coming back for? I have nothing left for you. But notice upon his return, upon it, meaning he didn't even touch the castle, the house, wherever. He didn't even touch it yet. He saw him from afar and rejoiced at the fact that he was returning, right? And how many of us be so ashamed in the things that we done, right? Because you have to understand, he went distant. He went out of sight. He did not want to be judged on what he knew he was going to do. He didn't stay in the same land as his father and his brother in the community that he was in. He went outside the community. How many of you left outside of your community to go do things out of shame, out of guilt, fear of judgment, right? How many of you refuse to accept the things that happen to you out of fear, out of shame, right? And for him in particular, the beauty, and it's funny, thank you Holy Spirit, he's accepted what he's done, which is why he was able to return. He accepted that he squandered his wealth on nothing. He accepted that he self-sabotaged his inheritance. He I have to, I'm gonna read. I'm still in Luke, but I'm gonna read. So he got up and went to, so listen, he so severe famine struck the country. He had nothing. Then he went to work for one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. He longed to eat his fill from the pods that the pigs were eating out of. Y'all know what them things will be eating. Pigs can eat anything. You know it's nothing but slop in there, right? But no one would give him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food? Here I am dying of hunger. I'll get up, go to my father, and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me one of your hired workers. He was already in acceptance that he I am unworthy. I've done the worst. The worst has happened to me. I've sinned against you. I've shamed you, right? He's accepted the things that he has done. He was ready to go back and just and to live in the self-sabotage that he already created for himself. Notice how he was surrendering to an idea he had about himself, yet not an idea or identity that was given to him. The father never gave him that identity. The father never said that you are unworthy. What the father did was, when he returned back, he embraced him. He loved on him. And this goes to show community, because community can influence your own perception about you. Jesus has influenced my perception about me. Being in the presence of the Lord, outside his presence, I felt guilty. I felt unworthy. It was hard for me to accept the things that happened and the things that I've done. I felt shame. I felt all the things. But when I sat in his presence, I felt the opposite. Yes, I was revealed, right? He revealed a lot of me to me. But he also showed me that I was actually worthy of love. I was worthy to be his. I was worthy of his love. Like, and it's crazy because as I'm reading this, I said, Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. Notice now, but notice also, depending on who you are around, can depict your can decipher your perception, right? Because when you think about it, right, and I'm trying to land here, people. I'm trying to land here. But when you think about it, right, based on your environment also plays a part in how you see yourself and how you also move, right? Because I remember being in my B group that I have. I have an online community group, and that's something that you're interested in. I'll put the link down in the description box below on both platforms, the podcast platform and the YouTube platform. And I remember being around a certain group of friends, right? So this is my community that I created, and there's a certain group of friends, right? And I remember, depending on what community I was in, one of them made me feel safe to be who I am and feel loved because those people was led by Christ, and one made me feel ashamed and feel guilty for the things that has happened to me and the things that I have done, and allow me to operate in that mindset of guilt. One allowed me to feel the love and to feel the acceptance of the things that has happened to me, but to still operate in love. And one of them made me want to operate in shame and guilt and malice, right? And I say that to say, being in the presence of the Lord is a beautiful thing. And it's beautiful because He doesn't permanently allow you to hold condemnation based on the things that you have done, right? So when it comes to acceptance, acceptance is not the baggage you think it is by holding it on your shoulders. It's actually letting it go. It's accepting what was, it's accepting what is, and it's trusting the Lord for all that is to be and all that is to come, right? And notice when the brother was disappointed, he was outside. He was not around the child. He was not around his brother. Notice that he was not in the house. Notice he was not in his brother's presence where he showed his disappointment. Because listen, what this is what the brother said. He goes, this is 28. Then he became angry and didn't want to go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. His father didn't command him to come in the house because he had that authority to do so. But he said, you know what? I'm going to come out and come out. Right? Because the type of attitude you have can actually turn this child back around to go back to where he came from. Because again, he was already accepting that he was beneath, right? He already said, I'm unworthy, right? He was already coming in to operate in the self-sabotage that he already created when he left. He said, I'm going to return to my father and go, listen, just hire me as one of your servants. Don't even put me back where I was. Just put me below, because that's where I deserve to be, right? And people's perception can taint, because had the brother been present, he would have heard this. Look, I've been slaving many years for you, and I have never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me a goat so I can celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you slaughtered the flattest. Like, he's not even worthy, bro. He left, right? People say that about you. You're not worthy. You did this. You did that, right? And the only thing that holds you back truly is not what they think. Like, the brother's perception of him, granted, it could have brought him back to a cycle, because a lot of the things that people say on the outside, if it really affects you, it's just confirming what you already believe on the inside. So if he already thought he was unworthy, and then the brother said, well, he was out with prostitutes, he don't deserve it, that could have just confirmed something he already confirmed earlier about himself. That was just snapshot trigger, right? It's already confirming a belief, right? But understand that the reaction that he got from his father was able to turn it around. Now, when I read my commentary, this was not the main scope of it. It was really trying to show the Pharisees that all people, no matter if they are sinners or whatever, is welcome with the Lord. But this also put in perspective for me that how many times have you walked away from the Father, and then when you go to return, you felt unworthy, right? It was hard for you to accept the things that you have done or the things that has happened to you, because there was a time where you was apart from God. So when returning to His presence, He embraces you, but there's probably people that don't embrace you. Don't allow those people that don't embrace you to taint your perception and or your growth, because at the end of the day, the Lord loves you, and the fact that you returned, He's rejoicing. He's in awe of the fact that you came back home to be alive from being dead, right? Acceptance would allow you to really feel the love of the Lord, because not only are you accepting what was, but you're accepting his love and you're accepting your renewal in him. So I'm going to end it as that. I want you guys to read that chapter. I'm saying it because it showed me a lot. And I'm actually going to study it when I get off this podcast, because it really showed me a lot. And I definitely want to digest into it. But again, please read that chapter. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what it revealed to you. The question we're gonna follow it is, what is one thing I cannot accept, that I'm not comfortable with? Is it something with my attitude? Is it something from my past? Like, what is something that's hindering me from accepting? Is it too painful? Like, what am I refusing to accept? Like, what does that look like? I want you to ponder on that until next week. But let me tell you, before we get off this good old thing, let me tell you something that your girl did. I got baptized, y'all. Woo! Yes, I got baptized the 21st. Ooh, excuse me. The 21st of this month, I was baptized. Your girl got dipped in the holy waters. I am renewed. I'm so excited. I did record my baptism story. I don't know if I'm gonna post it just yet. I might do it at the end of the year. I don't know. I'm still reveling in it. So, for your girl is new, honey. I got baptized. I'm so excited. I have a local church over here called LCBC. Me and my family has been going into it for a while. I signed up to be baptized, and it was like a couple months ago. I submitted a story, so in that recording, you do hear a part of my story, and I'm just like so in awe, because I finally surrendered fully to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And guys, I got dipped in that water, came up. Water's very cold, feel very refreshing. Yes, I feel like I died in the water, regretted, and came back up. But yeah, that is something that I did this past week, and I just wanted to share that with you. So your girl is a baptized, she is renewed. Who are you? I am not me, or who I used to be. I am new, new, always rocking that new. But yo, I just wanted to share that with you. So guys, if today's episode tugged at your heart in any way, make sure that you subscribe and you share. Um, leave a comment. I'm looking forward to my first commenter. I'm like so excited. I think the one mistake before I let you go that I've done in this journey is I thought that I could do it by myself. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to do, because I thought that I could do it by myself. But what I'm here to tell you is, you do not have to be on this journey alone. I am here for you. There are a community of people that are here for you to help walk you through what it is to suffering well. I'm also working on an actual workbook to where you do not have to be alone when it comes to developing yourself and building your relationship with God. If that is something that you are interested in, make sure you click the link in my description on both platforms, YouTube and podcast. I will have both, to where you guys can sign up to my email list, so you can be the first to know when we are dropping this book. This is something I've been working on for a couple of months, and I'm just making sure that I'm hitting all the nicks and crannies before I send it out. But you will be the first to know just by signing up to my email list when I do drop that product. Because again, it will go to my email subscribers only when I do drop it. So if you are a person that's like, girl, put me down, make sure you click that link in the description. Thank you so much for joining me for today's conversation. I hope this conversation helped you, bring you closer to God as well as with yourself. Continue this conversation even after this podcast is over. This is your girl, Avoidance Renee, and this is a conversation with God and self. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye. If you like this video, check this one. I know you are going to enjoy it. Go ahead, click it. I won't steer you wrong. I'm always gonna steer you right. So click right over here. There you go.